Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, what caused Kevin Durant to shed tears during his MVP speech, and what was behind the Warriors firing Mark Jackson? Plus, sports meets comedy as Tracy Morgan joins us at the desk. All that and more coming up on the First Take podcast, which starts right now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Take. I'm Carrie Champion, sitting with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. Gentlemen, it's Wednesday.
What's up? Here we go.
Okay, plenty to discuss on the show. We heard the whispers, but now there is confirmation. Golden State has fired Mark Jackson. The reason and the reaction, we'll talk about that in just a few moments. Plus, comedian and actor Tracy Morgan is here. He wants to sit at the desk and talk all things New York, Knicks, Yankees, Eli Manning. You get the picture. And retired NBA center Dikembe Mutumbo will join the desk. Not in my house. But first, let's go to the association, shall we? Kevin Durant was named the NBA MVP on Tuesday, and the 25-year-old delivered a very touching speech that singled out his teammates and his family.
Karan, even though you just got here a few months ago, we've grown so close over these last few weeks. And I can remember when you first got here, you wrote a piece of paper in my locker. I don't know why I'm crying so much, man. You wrote a piece of paper in my locker and said, KD MVP. And that's after we had lost 2 or 3 straight. And I don't really say much, in those moments, but I remember that. I go home and I think about that stuff, man. When you got people behind you, you can do whatever.
He also shed a bit of a tear. Stephen A. Smith, your takeaway on this speech?
Incredibly touching, sincere, heartfelt. Essentially, indicative of everything we know Kevin Durant to be. Obviously, when we judge him in terms of being critical, we're measuring him against his own greatness and that of the greatest players to have ever played the game, because his greatness as a player has already been established. But I've often sat up here on many, many occasions and have told the world that he's one of the best people that you could ever find, that you could ever meet in professional sports. There's a few guys I feel that way about. Dwayne Wade coming first and foremost to my mind, but Kevin Durant's a special dude. And, when you tell a story and you allude to the trials and tribulations that you have to overcome, we all love those stories, but on far too many occasions we tend to take it for granted because, unless you're in it, you can't really absorb how deep it is for him to come from where he's come to where he's at right now. And then to bring up Caron Butler, he's a name that doesn't get mentioned much. I've known Caron Butler for years. Skip, to tell you a little story has nothing to do with Kevin Durant per se, but it's indicative of why he leaned over and looked at a guy like Caron Butler. If you remember years ago, and it's not to throw him under the bus, but Gilbert Arenas and his troubles in Washington, D.C., it may have ended with the whole gun thing with Crittenton and those and with the Wizards organization. But prior to that, he had signed a $100 million contract for Ernie Grunfeld. Got a little arrogant, got a little beside himself, was disrespectful to people within the Wizards organization, including a few women that were in a business meeting. And it was Caron Butler who got in his face and was saying, there's a certain way you treat people. There's a certain way you conduct yourself. There's a certain way that you're supposed to know how to act. Caron Butler is one of those upstanding citizens in the NBA. And so when Kevin Durant pointed him out and highlighted the emotional uplift that Caron Butler gave him, it was clearly understandable, because if you know anything about Caron Butler, that's the kind of guy he is, especially when he notices somebody who is special. And Kevin Durant, we're going to be critical of his game from time to time because, again, he's measured against his own greatness. But in the end, as a person, what you saw was the same genuine person you always see.
Yeah.
He wears his emotion on his sleeve.
Yeah.
Even when he was critical of you or anybody else, it's just him coming to the defense of his man, Russell Westbrook, which is what he said. He'll always have his back and all of that stuff because, you know, ultimately he's a great ambassador for the game of basketball because of the person he is as much as the player that he is. And we saw that yesterday in full effect.
Good perspective.
I agree with everything you just said. I found it to be an amazing speech, a stunning speech. I thought Kevin Durant opened his heart and his tear ducts and just let it flow. But what was more amazing to me was that Kevin Durant was able to step out of the moment that he and his team find themselves in, that must-win Game 2 moment, and let his emotions flow like that. It was a little strange to me because as I watched, it sounded almost like a Hall of Fame acceptance speech. It sounded like a culmination kind of a speech, a grand finale, I finally arrived kind of a speech, almost like it's an it's over kind of a speech. And it only shocked me because I judge Kevin Durant, as you do, by his own greatness and at the highest level. And clearly, I think you would agree that Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant would not have been capable in that moment, at this point in the playoffs, of stepping out of the scenario that they'd find themselves in and let themselves go quite like that. That's just me. I don't think they could have, but it is Kevin. And we have talked and talked about Kevin Durant, and my emotions have swung with his soul-searching over the last 3 years because this man has tried to find himself again and again. Who am I really? Am I a basketball player or am I a man? And he said, even yesterday, he said this year for the first time ever, basketball was no longer my priority. Becoming a man was my priority. Now we go back a couple of years ago, and you remember Kevin was upset that he didn't have enough edge. He lacked some toughness. So what did Nike do for him? There was the sneaker campaign of Kevin Durant is not nice. And then Kevin swung completely back this year and said, no, that's wrong. That's not right. In the end, nice guys don't have to finish last. And he started a whole new campaign with the website, strongandkind.com. Chris Broussard did a great piece about it. And yet, all along, strong and kind, Kevin had the third most technical fouls in the NBA this year. And he got one the other night out of frustration when he cursed to the referee. So I'm thinking, who is he really? And then Mark Stein had a great sit-down with Kevin, as you saw after his presentation yesterday. What did it go, 26 minutes long? 27 minutes? And Mark asked him about his comment a few years back about you were sick and tired of being second. Remember that? And he said yesterday, nope, I was wrong then. I didn't understand what I was saying. I'm paraphrasing his comment. But he said, I was always first. I was first in Caron Butler's mind and in all my teammates' minds. My mom thought I was first. God thought I was first. So this is a whole new approach to life from Kevin Durant. So now we got to get it back into the basketball context, and I send it back to you with, okay, I think that was the real guy who stood up there in front of the cameras yesterday. That was the real, honest, raw Kevin Durant. How will that speech impact his team? Will it unite and inspire his team? It could. And then how will it impact Kevin as he goes forward into tonight? This is a big deal. Just on the basketball level, I think you would agree, their season teeters tonight, right? At home. It's not an absolute must-win, but I think we both think you better win it or you're going to be in big, big trouble and won't be able to bounce back. It did surprise me. It seemed a little odd that he would choose that moment to let it all flow out of him that way.
Well, I think it's a couple of things. You brought up Michael Jordan and you brought up Kobe Bryant. I think I have to remind you that Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant had both parents in the home. Mm-hmm. There are certain trials and tribulations that Kevin Durant endured that they simply didn't have to.
Yep.
And when you go through that, one of the hazards is one thing, and a lot of people talk about two-parent homes. I'm thinking two parents, period. What I mean by that is that you don't have to have both parents in a home to have both parents in your life. Mm-hmm. When you talk about somebody who's a single parent, that means there was only one parent who was present. And when there's only one parent that is present, particularly when it's a mom and it's the boys, that they're raising. They have sons instead of daughters. That's an incredible challenge, not just for the parent, but for the kid, because the kid constantly is wondering about what's wrong with me. And I've never talked to Kevin Durant about this, even though I know him. I don't know him personally on that level, and I would never even share it, even if he told me to, unless he gave me permission to do so. But I'm speaking in a roundabout way from experiences that I've had, from experiences that I've known other folks have had. You have to understand that when you grow up and you have that psychological warfare that you're battling, you're constantly questioning yourself. You may not remember this. I remember what I consider to be the most powerful episode of Will Smith in The Fresh Prince with Ben Vereen.
Yep.
And, you know, and he was the father, and he came back to visit him, but then didn't want to take him with him, and he was going off, and then he started crying at the end saying, why doesn't he want me, man? You know, when you're a kid, you grow up with those questions when you're a young man and you don't have that father in your life. And no matter what anybody tells you, and no matter what skills you know you possess, and no matter how gifted you may know you are, there is always a question mark in the crevices of your mind as to who you are and how great you truly are. You don't necessarily fully believe everything that everybody's telling you. So when you take that and then you put that in the basketball court and you're competing at the very, very highest level, the way you shield yourself from that is by defining what winning is and not letting somebody else define it for you. It's not that you don't want a championship. It's not that you don't want to go for it. It's not that you're not giving your full-fledged effort. You just refuse to believe that that is what totally defines you after all the hard work you put in. Because if you could be so easily defined, then you could be easily knocked down to the question mark that you had inside of yourself about yourself. He did. And so you saw it raw or whatever, but I've always seen that Kevin Durant. I've never once looked at Kevin Durant and thought that there was anything remotely phony or disingenuous about him. He's always been genuine. He's always been genuine, rather. He's always been somebody that's been real, even if it's real wrong from time to time. He's real, and that's how he feels. And so you go from here. I think that the players will rally around him. I think it was incredibly moving. I think they'll want to win for him tonight. I think they'll be more focused than ever. I think they'll come out there and they'll play lights out. And more importantly, what I was thinking about last night, you came to mind, Skip, because as he was applauding and really lavishing praise upon Russell Westbrook, it made you look at Russell Westbrook differently. Because you see that how much Russell Westbrook means to him and how much he means to Russell. And so Russell almost broke down. And when I saw that, I said to myself, you know, if you're Russell Westbrook at that moment in time, you literally have nothing to prove because this is your guy. You see what I'm saying? When you have a star who embraces you on that level and lets the world know how much you mean to him, how valuable you are to him on both a professional and a personal level, that could end up being the one thing that catapults you because you have nothing left to prove. If there's one mistake that Shaq and Kobe in the end had, where Shaq is at fault, is that Shaq may have waited a little bit too long to make sure Kobe recognized how valuable he was to Shaq. You know, because once you're trying to help, it wasn't intentional. You're trying to help, your little brother, which is what he was calling him at the time, and all of this other stuff. But you waited too long. And ultimately, Kobe was, he had to be his own dude and do things his own way, and they parted ways. But if Kobe had been embraced from the very beginning, where Durant embraced Westbrook, who knows?
All right, so I'm going to take it back again to more of a cold-blooded basketball level. Okay? What did yesterday tell you? What did that speech tell you about Kevin? Does he have enough of the Jordan Kobe assassin in him to be the leader of a championship team?
I would say to you, that's not fair because I don't know anybody that's Jordan and Kobe, but what I will say is that could very well be the weight that's lifted off your shoulders.
You can argue.
The league MVP trophy, okay? Because remember, he's not into individual awards, but the league MVP trophy may very well be the weight lifted off your shoulders. Okay, that's over. That's done with. I don't have to worry about accolades and recognition on a personal level. Now it's all about the championship.
Okay.
You said it before,
Yeah.
but now it's officially so.
But to me, he embraced the individual honor. He took that stage and used it, as I said again, as almost like a Hall of Fame feeling kind of a speech. I have arrived. A little surprising to me, and in the speech, remember, once again, you are empowering Russell. You're saying, you're my guy to do whatever you want, which has been my issue. You're telling Russell, you can do whatever you want. If you want to shoot more than I shoot, if you want to try to take over, I'm good with that. That's not the leader of the team. That's saying, Russell, you're my man. And in the end, I'm going to tell you again, I believe that Russell has to be the guy in the end, that cold-blooded assassin on this team to take it.
I wouldn't say have to be, but I would also caution you again, if you're wearing multiple weights on your shoulder and you're able to shed some of it off, you know, it may have seemed like he embraced the individual award, but what I saw was an individual that was letting the world know, I have all of these people to thank. You see what I'm saying?
No, it's
so
beautiful.
It's going to galvanize folks to come along for that ride with him.
So you think it will be a very positive going into Game 2?
I think it would be a very positive going into Game 2, but that doesn't mean they're going to beat the Clippers because the Clippers are lethal. Again, I picked the Clippers to lose this series because I'm thinking the games are going to be tight, and DeAndre Jordan, who I love and I think could be the best big man in the game if he hits his free throws, I have questions as to whether or not he can hit his free throws. But the Clippers are a juggernaut, and if they're going to run away with games.
Bayless, you mentioned soul searching for Kevin Durant, hard to mature on a national stage as well as develop. We'll talk about the game 2, Clippers at Thunder tonight at 9:30 Eastern, a little later on in our show. After the franchise's most successful coaching tenure in the past 20 years, the Golden State Warriors fired the man responsible. The general manager thanked Mark Jackson for his hard work, but said the team was moving in a different direction.
We appreciate everything that Mark was able to do for this organization over the last 3 years. He put us in a better place. This was a difficult decision, but we believe he's got a bright future. We wanted to move in a direction where maybe we were possibly more aligned as an organization entirely. And it wasn't necessarily friction or one thing or any other thing specifically. It was about what is the best thing for us to do moving forward as an organization.
On moving forward in his coaching future, Mark Jackson said this, well, I've got a lot of messages on my phone that I haven't checked yet. That'll play itself out. I know it'll work out. I do know that I don't have to prove I can coach anymore because of the platform I was given. Stephen A., you talked about this early in the season, about the possibilities of them firing Mark Jackson. They have fired him. What's your reaction, or what do you know on that?
I'm sad and disgusted. I want to say that I respect the Golden State Warriors organization's right to make change.
Sure.
Your ownership, if you want to move in a different direction because you don't have an ideal relationship with the subordinate, you have every right to do so. It's the American way. This is what we deal with every day. And Mark Jackson doesn't deserve a pity party on that level. However, you know, when somebody goes 98 and 66 over the last 2 seasons, when they just won 51 games, when they've gone to the playoffs for consecutive years for the first time in 20 years, and the culture itself has changed, and the expectation is winning. Mark Jackson had a lot to do with that. And for him to be gone because folks didn't necessarily like him, that's always something that's incredibly comfortable for a lot of coaches, particularly black coaches, as they often say. Obviously, it's going to be uncomfortable because, of course, Stephen A. Smith is bringing up black and white and all of this other stuff. But there are a plethora of black coaches in this league that I've known for decades that have lamented this. Having to please somebody, having to ingratiate yourself with folks, being held accountable for the likability factor as opposed to results, when other people necessarily don't have that onus placed on their shoulders. There's something wrong with that picture. I'm certainly not implying that, you know, one's ethnicity had anything to do with Mark Jackson being gone. What I'm simply saying is that it's sad that a person that had the organization going in the right direction, that produced results, that is on the upswing, they're moving forward, finds himself losing his job because of personal reasons as opposed to what he did on the basketball court. And when that is suddenly a part of the criteria, I think what people don't realize in terms of how damaging this can be is that sports is the one thing we as a nation are able to lean on when it comes to a meritocracy. What you do is in the open. It's not behind some curtain. It can't be shielded or disguised or interpreted to fit somebody's agenda. What you do is there as plain as day for everybody to see. And a decision like this, based on the reasons it's associated with, reminds us all it's never the case. That somehow, some way, there's always that curtain or that proverbial glass ceiling that's hovering over you to infiltrate a meritocracy. And that means everything is compromised. And it's unfortunate that that's the case, but it is what it is.
I hear what you're saying. My final takeaway from this is I'm still shocked he got fired, because no matter how much trouble he might have caused internally, how much friction, how much conflict, he was well worth the trouble to me, because he produced. He gave them results that you just specified on the court that should have made him worth whatever the issues were. But let's be clear about this. Mark Jackson was not without some blame here.
Right.
Because we go back to the very start. He gets hired, and then he immediately, and in a surprise to his new ownership, makes it a priority to get back to his LA-based church as much as possible to preach, because he's the pastor of that church.
Yes.
I have no problem with that. In fact, I would applaud him for that, except now you're the head coach of the Golden State Warriors in Oakland. So I think if you were the owner of Golden State at that point, you'd probably start to have a little issue with Mark. Where are you? Where does your heart lie? Does it lie with your church or with our basketball team, right? Is that fair?
No, it isn't in my estimation, and here's why, Skip Bayless. You hired him when he had the church. You hired him when he was living in L.A. It wasn't a problem when he walked in the door and was employed by you. He's certainly not there during the season. And oh, by the way, I was at Game 6, and then I had to go to L.A. for Game 7. Skip Bayless, it's a 55-minute flight.
Okay, but again, just on the face of it, I don't think they understood how many times he wanted to get back to preach, which is, again, it's fine, but you know how much these organizations want you to be fanatical, to be obsessive about your new job.
I am in no way comparing Mark Jackson to Phil Jackson or anybody else, but the New York Knicks just paid an individual that has never been an executive anywhere from 10 to 12 million a year, who's going to be living part-time.
Okay,
3,000 miles away.
But he has how many rings?
I understand that, but 3,000 miles away.
Okay.
I understand. Now, if you're talking about Mark Jackson leaving during the season, no excuses. If you're talking about Mark Jackson living across the country and he's never around, no excuses. It's a 55-minute flight.
I know it well. I've taken it way more than you have.
Yes, you have.
Trust me.
So my point to you is that let's not allow them to use that as an excuse, because they instantly picked up the phone and called Steve Kerr. Now, Steve Kerr and his family live in San Diego.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't know if the wife and the family are willing to move to the Bay Area. Is that going to prevent Steve Kerr from getting the head coaching job? Now, Mark's got the church, but Steve Kerr might have his family. And the wife might not want you to move to New York because that's 3,000 miles away. I'm not speaking for Steve Kerr, and I'm certainly not trying to insult or denigrate him or his family in any way. Please don't mistake what I'm saying. I have no problem with it. But what I'm saying is that if the family doesn't want to move from San Diego, all right, then the likelihood is that Golden State, first of all, is a more attractive job because of its personnel, first of all, and the ownership, by the way, because I actually like the ownership. But then when you also look at the fact that, okay, they're in San Diego, San Francisco's closer to San Diego than New York is. If you go to San Francisco, rather, are you going to move your family from San Diego, or are you going to go home? Okay?
I don't know.
But my point is this. I'm telling you that there are a plethora. There is no owner in the league. I have covered it for 18 years. There is no owner in the NBA that does not have employees that live in a different location than the team they work for. It's a weak excuse. It's normal. It comes with the business. Any owner that tells you that is a liar. I will call them a liar on national television. It is not. Trust me. It is common in the off season.
Head coaches.
It is common. It is common for guys to live where they want to live in the off season. As long as your butt is back here enough, especially when you're needed in the off season.
Okay. But if you do it right out of the box, it could cause some friction with your new ownership if they weren't aware you were going to spend so much time with your church in L.A. Now, let's get back to what happened. Final takeaway. This is so ironic. Mark Jackson is as personable, charming, charismatic as anybody I've been around. Is that fair? I mean, he's great on TV, but he is his own man.
Yes, he is.
He is very stubbornly proud, maybe to a fault. And once he felt a little friction from management and ownership, he went into bunker mentality. I'm going to coach my team, and it's us against the world. Well, that's fine. But in the end, you said it's America. You are alienating people above you in the organization. So you're asking for it.
I'm not going to go as high as owners, because meeting those owners, seeing how passionate they are, I have tremendous respect for what they want to do and their right to do what they want to do. Okay? But whether it's Myers, the GM, or somebody else, I have a question. The issue of assistant coaches were brought up. And by the way, even though I've highlighted Brian Scalabrine, I'm not trying to disrespect him, meaning, like, who's Brian Scalabrine? When I say who's Brian Scalabrine, I mean you're an assistant coach. I would say that about any assistant coach who reportedly walks by your superiors for 5 weeks without saying hello, and is just dismissive of them. I would question who's any assistant coach who believes that you have a right to secretly tape the other coaches and your head coach. Now, did that come from nowhere? Who endorsed that? How is it that you could get away with doing something like that? Somebody upstairs, because you've got ownership here talking about the advice for Mark Jackson for the future is coaching sideways and upwards. In other words, ingratiating yourself better sideways and upwards in the future. So you're basically trying to say, in terms of his assistant coaches and the people upstairs, he could have had a better relationship. My simple question is this. Why would I want to have a better relationship with dudes that's secretly taping me or somebody else who's insubordinate? And who gave them the license to do that?
Okay.
Just a question.
So maybe Mark Jackson might be relieved to be out from under this situation.
Yeah, but would you be relieved to be losing Steph Curry and Klay Thompson?
I would not.
And Draymond Green? I wouldn't. So Steph Curry is a superstar. Yeah. Steph Curry is an elite player in the NBA.
Although I read that some people upstairs had issues with the way Mark was coaching Steph. That he was giving him a little too much leeway, running too many ISOs and isolations and clear-outs for Steph.
Have you watched?
Okay, well, have you listened to me? I said he's better than Blake Griffin. Okay.
I mean, are we really going to question that?
I'm just saying.
Oh, please.
Let's talk about the matchup that we all talked about or wanted to see. That was the Heat and the Nets. Well, after last night's game, I can say the excitement was definitely tempered. The Heat beat the Nets 107-86. Paul Pierce had this to say after the loss.
Talking about the third quarter, I mean, it was a 3-point game at the half, fellas. I mean, we're not overreacting. We feel like we still can get a game in this building. So we just got to think it's minor. I think it's minor. Some of the things we got to do. We didn't give no resistance tonight, and we still was in the game for the most part until the end of the third quarter.
Miami outscored Brooklyn 33-23 in the third quarter. Stephen A., your takeaway from last night's game?
Incredibly disappointed in Brooklyn. It's only one game. There's no need to overreact. They just got through a 7-game series against the Toronto Raptors, but you got to show up for 2 halves. They got obliterated in the second half. They got ran off the court. And you don't want to see that in a series like this. You just don't. You don't want to see that. Now, if you came out from opening tap and you played like garbage, I think that would have been easier to accept, because we would have looked at the 7-game skip. We would have looked at the war it was and how taxing it may have been on these age-old veterans and said, okay, they just took game 1 off because they didn't have their legs under them. But the fact that you came out and played the way that you played in the first half What the second half was indicative of was a team who got figured out.
Yeah.
And Miami said, enough of this nonsense. Let's stop playing with these boys. Let's get them out of here.
Yep.
That's what I sensed. And that was the disappointing aspect of all of this, because for me, I want this to go at least 6 games. I want the Brooklyn Nets to stand up and show themselves to be who I know they can be. But if last night was indicative of anything, this series will be over in 5 games because the Heat will protect their home court and they'll steal at least a game in Brooklyn, and it'll be over. And I don't want a series like that. I don't want to see Kevin Garnett looking like he's a step away from retirement, attempting just 2 shots and scoring 0 points. He's Kevin Garnett. I understand that he's older now, and Father Time is undefeated. But he's too smart, he's too gifted, he's too much of a warrior, he's too competitive to have a 0 attached to his name against the Miami Heat in the points department in a playoff game. I don't want to see that from KG. He's just too big time for that. Even though he may not be big time anymore as a player because of age, he's still a big time competitor, and he's too smart. You could fall your way into 2 points, for crying out loud. So I don't want to see that. And in the end, you look at the balance on the part of the Heat. Ray Allen with 19 points. You know, you got LeBron 22, Bosh 15 and 11, D Wade 14 and 5. I'm just looking at it and I'm saying they're gonna run Brooklyn out of here if Brooklyn don't wake up. Brooklyn better show up for game 2. They better show up for game 2.
Yeah. Brooklyn will show up for game 2. I believe that the Nets' heads were still in Toronto last night. They hadn't let go of Game 7 quite yet. Not so much legs, but just heads, psyches. And I thought the Miami Heat played with healthy fear. They respected this team because this team had beaten them all 4 times during the regular season, and it showed. They came out and played superb basketball. Ball movement, commitment to defense. And it was a mismatch in the second half because they got big threed, as you just pointed out, plus Ray Allen. But LeBron James took 0 3-point shots last night because he was penetrating. He was creating havoc in the lane.
And posting.
And posting. And it showed. And they didn't have an answer. And you mentioned Kevin Garnett. I'm going to mention Paul Pierce. I didn't love it that Paul participated in that little moment right before tip-off with LeBron where LeBron tried to say, it's only right that we meet again, and there was a little chuckle between them. And I was surprised that Paul would chuckle because I don't think he likes LeBron in the basketball context. And he played a lifeless basketball game last night, and he can't play. He's the instigator. He's the fire starter. He's the guy who has caused some issues with LeBron before, getting in his head a little bit or just going right at him. So he's got to set the tone in game 2, and I hope he will, because 3 for 8 from him is kind of lifeless.
Right. He's got to step up and embrace the challenge. Somebody has to, because Miami's going to run them out of here. I think what people need to remember about Miami is this. Because of the health of Dwayne Wade, the questionable health of him throughout this season, the 28 or so games that he missed, along with the load that LeBron had to carry, with Shane Battier disintegrating before our very eyes, just Father Time, as always. He still can shoot. He's still a good guy. He's still a good player. But I think this could be it for him as well. Miami is not just on a mission to win a championship. They're trying to do it in the least amount of games as possible. Miami's trying to take dudes out of here.
Right.
They're not trying to work. They're not interested in overtime. They're not. Miami is interested in nothing but part-time work. If they could get rid of you inside of 3 quarters, they're trying to do it.
I agree.
So teams need to beware of that.
Nets at Heat Thursday, 7 Eastern on ESPN. And gentlemen, welcome back to First Take. Comedian, actor Tracy Morgan. Hilarious new stand-up tour. It's called Turn It Funny. It kicks off this month. But before you do that, you're here. You're hanging out at the desk with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith and Kerry Chandler.
Long journey to get here. I'm in the seat and I'm ready.
How do you feel?
I feel great.
You do?
Yeah, this morning I feel great.
All right.
Why do you feel great when you say you're a Knicks fan?
Yeah.
Because I know next season we're going to come back strong.
See, people don't know.
I believe.
You and I have talked in the
Come on.
past. It's the same thing you said last year. You said the same thing last year.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened in the locker room. I wasn't there, but I'm looking forward. I'm a forward-thinking man, and I'm looking forward to next season. We got Phil, Carmelo staying, and we got
Really? Sure about that?
Yeah.
Sure about that?
I believe. I'm going to call Melo my man tomorrow. I'm going to see what's up.
All right.
Listen, I've been with the Knicks since day one, Rory Sparrow and all that. The greatest point guard ever was Michael Ray Richardson to me. So I got to believe. Next season, we are in there. We're going to put on some old Chuck Taylors. We're going to string them up tight, and we're going hard, old school style. Old Detroit Piston play.
Well,
Bad boys.
That was the question we were going to ask you. How do you know for a fact that Carmelo is staying? You know he's a free agent July 1st. He can get out of here.
I believe in my heart.
What are his options?
I think
Why would he want to stay there?
Because I think that, you know, I believe that he loves New York. He's from New York. He's from Red Hook, man. So, you know, that's where his heart is. You know, home is where the heart is. He home. So he can't go wrong here. Why would you go anywhere else? We got Phil here.
He can't
we got
go,
Phil here.
Phil's
going to attract some players, and then we're going to get the pieces. Give us 2 years. It ain't got to happen overnight. Be patient. I know how you feel.
No. I want Melo to stay. I want Melo to stay. And by the way, as I look around the NBA landscape, I mean, I'm saying to myself, why leave? Why leave? Because Chicago looked like their agent and dog is because of how tired they looked in that last game.
This is Melo's team.
And, I mean, it's New York City. I wouldn't mind Melo staying. I just don't know if the Knicks have given them enough reason to believe.
Well, if the Knicks on Wall Street will. Sell some Cadillacs, too.
Wall Street.
Sell some Cadillacs.
Right about that. Well, that's where Dolan
Everybody
can
want to
help.
come here. Trust me.
Dolan can
Play
help.
ball and you sell some Cadillacs. Hey, you straight. Get a ring. Hey, I told Carmelo the last game, I said, look at the rafters, man. You got to have something up there. That's New York City. And the rafters.
Well, nobody else has had anything up there in the last 40 years.
Well, they ain't Carmelo.
Okay.
Got to believe, baby.
You know, I'm sick and tired of talking about his Knicks, your Knicks. So I want to talk some Giants here. I want to talk some Eli, and I need your help, Tracy Morgan, with some insight here, because he and I go back and forth about your man, Eli Manning. So this past regular season, Eli led the NFL in interceptions for a third time in his career, third time. And if we take away those 2 wild card runs to Super Bowl championships, Eli Manning in the postseason is 0-3. 0-3 in the postseason without the 2 wild card championship runs. And only...
I'll take that over being a quarterback for Dallas.
Okay. Hang on. Okay, that's a good touche.
I'll take that over being a quarterback for Dallas.
So only 5 times...
We got 2 rings, baby.
5 times in 10 years, Eli has made the playoffs. 5 times in 10 years. Wow, that's so if his name were Eli Smith, would you be as patient with him? Is it the Manning last name label? No,
he got 2 rings. We got 2 rings.
That's
2
good
rings,
enough?
baby. We're going to get another one this year.
Compared to Dallas is good enough.
Dallas has got rings, they got Super Bowl trophies coming out of the
got the big stadium. Y'all got
been
the
a while, but they got a whole bunch of them.
Ah, man. Giant Stadium is where it's at, baby. Yeah. We don't even have a roof, man. We put it down. So mano y mano, uncontrolled environment.
So you're still sold on Eli Manning?
I'm for Eli, yes. Yes, he had surgery. He's going to come back strong. I'm still sold on him. But didn't we just pick up a quarterback?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
They ain't going to get any time. I mean, Eli, his ankle will be fine.
Yeah.
The bottom line is this. He's got 2 rings. He's not going to lead the league in interceptions again this year. I think things will be better.
You do?
I do. Well, and not only that, as long as Dallas is in the division, it's helpful.
Yeah.
But Dallas has a whole bunch of Super Bowl trophies. They just don't have one for a while.
It's been
they got 3 in the 90s.
Was it 18 years?
Huh?
18
Maybe they need to call Emmett
95?
back up. Who knows? Aikman, maybe they need to call him back up. Drew
Maybe.
Pearson.
Yeah, I'm done with Dallas.
I don't know.
I told you.
You're done with Dallas?
Yes, I'm done with them. I'm
until week 1. Until week 1.
I'm done with them.
Until week 1.
Maybe until tomorrow night.
Until tomorrow night. And then
We'll see what they do tomorrow
Let me ask you a
night.
question. What is Manziel going to do in the league?
He's going to be great.
Right.
He's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler.
Dig it.
Do you dig it? Do you believe it?
You gotta understand.
Just say no.
I'm not. I don't buy into college ball like that because I dropped out of high school in '87. Then it's just too many teams for me.
Yeah, I understand.
But if I had to pick one, it would be like Auburn.
Okay.
Because my boy, the running back, is Mason.
Oh, you know, like his dad.
Yeah, I grew up with his pop. So.
Oh, I forgot that.
De La Soul.
De La Soul, the DJ. Yeah, that's my man. What up, Mace? But if I love Auburn for both. You know what I'm saying? I go back to Bo Jackson.
Oh.
I remember those days when there was like stars in the league, like a Hershey and all of that stuff. So that's what I'm about.
Okay.
All right.
I'm looking for that next big running back. 230, George
Can we
Rogers
switch gears
style.
and talk about your lifestyle and what you're up to? Turn it funny. What's that about?
That's me taking on the drama in my life and everything I've ever been through in my life and turning it funny now. You know what I'm saying? I'm at that point in my life where I'm just looking back and reflecting and turning all the stuff the struggle, the doors slamming, my mom, my pops, all of that stuff, and making it funny. And just turning it funny. I have an opportunity to do that now because, 7 years on SNL and 7 years on 30 Rock, that's a lot of TV. I still did stand-up, but I wasn't able to focus on it. I wasn't able to pinpoint focus on it. Now that I love 30 Rock, I'm able to really focus on doing stand-up, and I hear my voice again. I see my perspective, you know what I'm saying? Before I was doing a script, everybody else was writing it. Now I hear my voice again. I'm like, oh wow, you're still funny. Okay, I see things in a funny way. Right on.
I was getting ready to ask you, is it because you have the time, or because television
I have more time now.
Yes, because you have more time, or is it because television in its own small way can be relatively restrictive and you felt a need to unleash?
Yeah, that can happen. You on Saturday, you on NBC, and sometimes I've been known in the past to be a little promiscuous on stage and stuff like that, but that's only because you do so much TV on NBC and stuff that when you live on television, you're like, and then you have to learn that, I don't have to be so, I don't have to be so, and then that's when you rein yourself back and everything. But TV is 14 hours, 12 hours a day. By the time I'm tired, I can't go out to hit the stage. So for many years, I was just relying just on the funny. But now I'm able to get my thoughts together, have my facilitators with me, and we organize everything. And Bonafide aired on us Easter night, and it was awesome, and people dug it, and I like it. I love stand-up. I love doing stand-up. There's nothing like live entertainment because there's no band behind me. The only thing between me and the audience is the microphone, and what goes into that mic goes out into the audience, and that's what it is.
So how true is it that the best comedy always comes from a place of pain?
Nah, I make fun of the joy too. I make fun of the family structure and all of that stuff. I make fun of that stuff. I might not say anything about my family particularly, but stuff that all families go through. Before I make people laugh on stage, my whole thing is identifying, relating. That's just saying, what up, y'all? You know what I'm saying? You want people to identify and relate with you. You want them to understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You won't be on stage for an hour and a half. You want to talk about something, too, because there's stuff happening in this world, man. It's doing exactly what it's... Monica Lewinsky's back in the news. You know what I'm saying? So, all of this stuff, you know what I'm saying? You're talking about it. But it's kind of... It gets kind of, sticky sometimes, the social media, and the camera phones in the show, and that's what sometimes it's like that. So would we be able to have a show like Archie Bunker on today? I don't know. No. The Jeffersons on today? Those were the days when we made fun of ourselves.
I love both of those.
Yeah.
We grew up on it. You couldn't have two black kids living with a white dude up at, from Harlem and, different strokes. I don't know, man. Things are
different strokes.
You look at it. So that's where I'm old school. I grew up on that stuff. Like last night, we just did the Don Rickles honors, and the thing I loved about him was that he never apologized for nothing, especially when it was just jokes. It was just jokes. And so he's the master. So that was awesome. It just reminded me what comedy was. They want to, roast me. But people ain't the same way what it was back then. The Dean Martin and those, people kind of different now. So nobody needs to be beat up or, for any amount of money at this point right now. So
Tracy Morgan,
I just want to do good stand-up.
Turn It Funny tour. We wish you the best. We've seen where you started and where you are.
Oh,
congratulations.
Man, thank you. Check it out.
Success, okay?
Check it out. I love you guys, man. I watch you every morning, man. It's good. I don't want to leave yet. Let me just chill.
I think some other people want you.
You at the car wash, bro.
Yeah, you gotta work. You gotta work while you're
here. You think you don't want to leave? Wait. You're gonna have a lot of things. You're gonna be tired in a little while.
Y'all, let me tell you something. Your point of view is so interesting, man.
Thank you.
It makes you look at sports in a different way. Sitting right here, right now, I'm just so intimidated, man.
Yeah, well, don't be.
I can be.
Don't be.
It's all right.
I can't imagine.
I'm going through it. No, I go through it. I feel everything.
Tracy Morgan, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, it is here. Finally, lives and franchises will change forever. Stephen A. says, thank the good Lord. The first round of the the NFL Draft tomorrow at 8 on ESPN. Good night, I tell you.
You know, some of us really like the NFL on the show.
Uh-oh.
No.
Some of us.
Yeah.
Some of us can't get enough of this.
In all seriousness, I absolutely love the NFL, especially since I'm here with you. I just can't stand waiting.
Okay.
It's still like waiting for the draft. I wish it was 3 weeks ago. I love the NFL. The NFL, I've actually gotten to the point where the NFL is on par for me with the NBA. I love it.
All right.
I just can't stand waiting.
Let's welcome in
love
our
the
coach.
anticipation.
Welcome, Herm Edwards.
Always wait for good things.
Oh, come
Thank
on,
you
stop.
for being here,
Draft
Coach. We
should have been 3 weeks
appreciate
ago.
it. We're going to go to our topic at hand. Cleveland down on Johnny Football. Jay Glazer of Fox Sports tweeted this yesterday. Browns won't be drafting Manziel at 4. I know it's been out there a ton that they will, but no, that's not how they have it. Again, I'll welcome you in because you didn't acknowledge me. Hi, Coach.
How are you, darling?
I'm well.
You look wonderful.
Thank you.
You make these guys really look good.
That's true.
What you trying to say?
I'm just trying to say what it is.
It is what it
She
is.
makes you guys look good.
Skip Bayless, if this
Yes.
is true.
Okay, let's be clear about what ESPN has reported
Okay.
about Johnny Manziel. Obviously, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay have him in mock drafts, Johnny Manziel going number 4 to Cleveland.
Yes.
Chris Mortensen, our very own Chris Mortensen, has reported only that if Clowney's gone, Greg Robinson's gone, Sammy Watkins is gone, and Cleveland can't trade out of the 4th spot, then they would consider, we'll go ahead and take Johnny Manziel.
Thanks for that clarification.
Okay, because I got to tell you, I'm pretty sure a whole lot of people would love to trade up to number 4 if they could to get Johnny Manziel. So now, my takeaway from this is great news for Johnny Manziel. The best, as far as a team fit for Johnny, would be the Houston Texans. I'm on the record about that. That Houston will forever regret it if they pass this kid with the number 1 overall. The best coaching fit for Johnny Manziel is Chip Kelly in Philadelphia.
Oh, boy.
And trust me, Chip is trying his darndest as we speak to try to figure a way to go up to get Johnny Manziel. Well, if in fact Cleveland isn't interested, as Jay Glazer reports, and I'm sure Mort would go along with that if it came to that, they couldn't trade out. Well, clearly this pick might be for sale then at number 4. So what would it require, Coach Edwards, to go up for maybe a Chip Kelly? Maybe, who knows who it could be? Tampa, maybe, with Lovey and new scheme, new ideas, new approach, new life in Tampa. Yep. They need the quarterback. So I'm saying that I wouldn't mind him in Tampa. Again, I'm on record if St. Louis passes on Johnny, if Jacksonville, how could Jacksonville pass on Johnny Manziel? I have no idea. That's just me because I think he's going to be a long-term star in the league. Your thoughts?
Well, you make a lot of great points. I think whoever takes Johnny Manziel, whenever he gets picked, if it's in the top 5, top 10, top 15, I think he's gone before that. You're going to have to structure your offense around the guy's skill set, and you know that going in. He's a dynamic player, a very competitive player. There's some concerns, which with all young players, there's always some concerns. His ball security, obviously. His ability to stay healthy is one that's a concern.
I got to ask you about that, but I'm going to let it
But here again, when you look at this guy play, he has the wow factor. People are going to come to the game to watch him. He's a draw. He's the hottest guy on the board as far as. He's a little bit like your guy, Tim Tebow. Some people like him, some people don't.
But way more people like Johnny Manziel.
I'm just saying, but there's a lot of people that are other camp too now. And so I just think the team that drafts him understands he's not the conventional quarterback. He's a guy that you have to let him use and utilize his skill set. He has an innate ability. To throw the ball from different platforms. He has great football, in my opinion, instincts.
He does.
He knows how to play the game. The lights are never too bright for him. Big games, he shows up. So this is what he brings to the table.
Okay.
If you're the Cleveland Browns, you need a quarterback.
Yes.
I understand that.
Yes.
Call me crazy, Skip. But the one thing that I would not want, the one situation I would not want Johnny Football in is a situation where a vast majority of the season is played in inclement weather. I mean, when I saw his performance against LSU,
That's what I think about. Now, I may be, I mean,
that
maybe
wasn't cold
far-fetched.
weather. That was just very wet.
But I'm just saying, I think about Cleveland, I think snow, I think cold. That's what I think about doing football. Obviously not September, but from October on, I mean, to me, it's just what I think about. I like Johnny in Texas. I like Johnny in California or Florida. I like him someplace like that. I don't like the thought of Johnny football in cold and inclement weather.
You heard Mel yesterday on the show say Johnny's hands are so big that he will have no trouble in snowy weather.
I feel you on that. Okay. All I can go by is what I saw, and I'm just saying that he, to me, strikes me as somebody who would excel in a dome, who would excel in warm-weathered cities. That's just me.
Probably.
But I will acknowledge that Cleveland definitely needs a quarterback, because as much as you'd like Morgan and you'd like somebody you'd like to have another wide out there, you need somebody to throw them the daggone football.
Yep.
And you want somebody who's a playmaker like Johnny to pull that off, because that defense ain't too shabby. Kyle Shanahan is there. Let's face reality. He's on a mission to prove something, that he's not just his daddy's son, with Mike Shanahan in Washington over the last 3 or 4 years. This man has something that he wants to prove, and I think that Kyle Shanahan is going to really step out the box and really try to showcase his skills as an offensive coordinator. I just don't know if that's the ideal scenario for Johnny football.
Let's say, for some reason, hypothetically, Cleveland is sitting there and let's say Houston takes your guy, Johnny Manziel.
Yep.
So what does Cleveland do at 4? Well, they probably get Sammy Watkins.
If he falls to 4. Yeah.
I'm just saying, because, does he go to Jacksonville, or does Jacksonville take Khalil Mack?
Yep.
There's the options, for Jacksonville.
Yep.
So let's say they say Khalil Mack.
Yep.
Gus Bradley wants a defensive guy trying to build his defense. He wants a guy that's an impact player. So now let's say Cleveland takes him. Now at 26, does Kyle Shanahan say, look, who's left on the board? Bortles gone. Bridgewater and Carr are there. Does he say, hey, well, look. Bridgewater, Carr, no. He says, you know what? Let's call Washington up. This guy.
This has been rumored.
Well, this is the rumor that, I don't rumor, this is a discussion we've had.
Yeah.
And I had this a month ago. Do you call Washington and say, hey, by the way, we give you our 26th pick. You want Kirk Cousins. You got a guy that knows the offense. Cold weather, played in cold weather, Michigan State. He helps you as a coach teach your offense to the offensive players.
He does.
Now, can they do that? Can they do that? Washington doesn't have a first-round pick.
Fellas. I'm with you. I don't know, first-round pick, coach.
That's what you say. That's what Skip says. Maybe even I say that.
Right.
But this is on Shanahan's watch.
Yeah.
He knows Kirk Cousins better than anybody.
He does.
And he's got to look at Carr and Bridgewater and say, those are the guys that are left.
Okay.
Is Kirk Cousins a better option, a guy that's played in my system, that's played football, than a rookie quarterback right now? That's the question you got to ask yourself.
Okay.
I'm not saying it is.
All right. Last quick question.
Conversation.
I need your input on this.
Yes, sir.
You coached in this league, played in this league a long time. This always confounds me. I heard Roethlisberger say yesterday that he does not love Manziel long-term because of the durability factor. He will get hurt. He's not big enough. So I was in Dallas for a long time with a young man named Emmitt Smith, who stood 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighed 205 to 210. Johnny's just a shade under 6 feet, and George Whitfield, his quarterback guru, says he's up now to about 212.
Yes.
Okay, so you could argue Johnny might be just a little bit bigger than Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith carried the football almost 5,000 times over 15 years without ever suffering a serious injury. Now, why would Johnny have more durability issues than Emmitt Smith when Emmitt is actually carrying the football between the tackles, play after play after play? Just a thought.
I can answer that.
All right.
My personal opinion. Emmitt is a running back who's short and stocky. So even though he's coming in between the tackles, he's got some leverage because he's lower. You're a quarterback, you're sitting back there in all likelihood taking shots as opposed to having some. Don't get me wrong, I understand the running back position, forward momentum, you're still getting hits, et cetera, but it's entirely different when you're short and stocky with powerful legs, having leverage, coming forward, as opposed to dropping back to pass in the pocket and taking clean shots without being able to brace yourself or anything like that. It's different for me for a quarterback around that size as opposed to a running back. That's just me.
Well, good point. And here's the next point you better understand, too, when you play quarterback. I've always told quarterbacks this. You leave that pocket, here's what's going to happen. Make sure when you leave that you protect your right throwing shoulder and your head when you start running. Because that's how you make your money. You got to think and you got to throw. We're not paying you to run, but you got to protect this. This is what we're paying you for this.
Yeah, but you know what, Coach? You can't throw either if your leg messed up.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, so when you leave the pocket or you get hit and you expose this or this, you got issues. And this is the difference between a runner than a quarterback running around doing this, trying to make a throw. A runner leaves the backfield. He's not extended. He's got the ball in his arm. He's tucked. He's getting ready to get hit. Quarterback leaves it, and he's running the throw. All of a sudden, somebody hits him on the blind side. That's the problem. It's always been the problem at that position. And when you expose a quarterback, and I don't care who you are, when you expose the guy in a motion like this, and he's getting ready to get a hit, and he doesn't see it, and Johnny Manziel's good at escape and all that stuff. This is pro football. When you play a quarterback like Johnny Manziel, I'm going to tell you the first thing they're going to do. They're going to make sure the ends never run past Johnny Manziel. They are going to force him to run inside. Don't let him escape outside. Why? Because there's more bodies inside that can hit him. That's what you do with a running quarterback. You force him to run into the furry where there's guys coming from different angles. When you let him get outside, he can always run out of bounds and slide. When he runs in the middle, you got guys that are going to hit him, and that's the problem.
Okay, last quick point. Johnny has Emmett's radar. Emmett had radar.
I believe it.
Avoid the kill shot, you know, the career-ending kind of shot. Johnny has that.
I believe that. But Johnny, when he runs, you see how he carries the ball?
Well,
he doesn't carry the ball like Emmett. He carries the ball like this, trying to throw. He wants to throw. He's looking down. I want to make a play.
That's ball security. Okay.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's how you get hurt.
Herm Edwards, you're needed on our other channel.
Yeah, the world.
I appreciate the fact that you've been able to join us. You'll join us a little later on in the show.
To talk about his what team?
Talk about what?
I think what's the next subject?
Well, we can't let everybody know.
Okay. Ooh.
What's the tease, Herm?
Coming this summer, the 2014 FIFA World Cup from Brazil. Every goal.
The shot, Jonathan scores! The USA leads by 2!
Every save.
Here's Germany up. Steal. Closer. In the box. The shot is stopped.
Every match. Wherever you are this summer, take the FIFA World Cup with you. It's on ESPN Radio and the ESPN Radio app.
20 years ago today, I was a wee baby. Our next guest and his Nuggets became the first 8 seed to upset a 1 seed in NBA history. Not in my house, he says. We welcome to the desk, Dikembe Mutumbo. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
We're happy to have you. You and Stephen A go way back to when he was just a little quarterback, a little baby. And you laugh because he was your beat writer, right?
Yes.
Did you like him?
I still love him.
You sure?
Yes, I still love him because he's my brother, man. He encouraged me to do well. You know, his challenge.
You did?
Yes, sir.
Did.
I think the things Steve was able to write about me, it made me push myself to prove him that he was wrong. And I think it made me to be a good basketball player.
And not only that,
yeah.
I always told him, I said he's an elite defender. I always got on him about his offense, and I told him straight to his face, he'll tell you, I'm going to get on you every day. I said, that jump hook, you need to use it more. And use them elbows. Go ahead. Use them.
So did you get mad at him?
So many times.
So many times.
He will tell you.
Yeah.
As soon as he walk in the locker room, he give him a chance, I would go after him right away.
And what would you say? What would you say?
You know, him and I will have a talk on the side.
Oh.
We did.
Always. Always. Steve, you're dissing me. You're dissing me. I said, look, man, you're a great defensive player, but your offense is struggling. What you want me to say? No, Steve, I've got that. I'm telling you, I'm good. I said, no, you're not.
Because Steve was trying to make me be an offensive player and a defensive player. But Coach Bryant brought me to Philadelphia to play defense. But Steve was like, no, we're going to win with Dikembe scoring. So I had to find my way to prove him wrong. And I think I did a good job.
He did. He did. He did until he ran into Shaq, but we understand that.
No,
we understand that.
Don't let him get get away with that.
I was just trying to let him skip. I was just trying to let him know. You can't be rolling out there averaging 2-3 points a game, doing what Roy Hibbert is doing right now.
We're gonna get there.
You got to put some points. I don't care how you do it. You got to put some points up on the board. You got to put some points up.
So what did Shaq do to you in the finals?
He's a big boy.
I think Shaq played very well. And offensively, defensively, did a good job. I think we as a 76 as a team, we did a good job against him. And I think they also did have another weapon on the front, which was Kobe Bryant.
I'd say.
And Kobe Bryant was much bigger than Allen Iverson, which was a little bit difficult for us to guard him. And his offense was more explosive. And Shaq got away from a few things, but not all the things.
Dikembe Mutumbo was getting away with them elbows, and then he ran into a brick wall that was Shaq, who had him by about 30 or 40 pounds, and those elbows didn't matter.
All right, so listen, game 2, Wizards, Pacers tonight. From one center to another, help us understand the disappearing act of one Roy Hibbert. What do you think is going on there?
First, I want you guys to be nice to my boy.
Okay.
He went to Georgetown.
Okay.
And I hope we was able to give him all of the elements that he needs for him to go to the world with. But his performance is not worth everyone accepting it to be. And I think it's a little bit disappointment to our side as a family. But we would like him to be more productive. But we have to understand he's playing against some bulldog guy. You know, Nene is playing basketball.
Let me
Yes,
stop.
sir.
Because everybody knows what a wonderfully nice man you are.
So nice.
Okay, so let's be clear about something
sweet.
here. Nobody is rooting against Hibbert. When you think about he's an incredibly nice guy, very sensitive, very smart, and like you and Zoe, I mean, he lived up to that Georgetown credo for years as a defender.
Yes.
What boggles our mind is that you're 7'2", and 3 of the last 4 games you've gone scoreless. 2 of the last 5 games, no points, no rebounds.
Did I say that I'm a little bit disappointed? Did I say that at the beginning of my sentence?
Yes.
I don't want to say how deep I am, but I say I'm a little bit disappointed. But I would like to see him do well.
Well, what can he do? What can he do?
When you're a 7-footer, one thing they pay you to do is rebound and block shot. Then after that, the offense comes next. But for him to go scoreless, I don't remember last time I saw something like this in the playoff. You know, you cover a lot of playoff for me. And it's very shocking. And I want to know, I have not talked to him in a while, but I would love to talk to him, hear from him exactly.
I can understand why Zoe wouldn't talk to him because he's in Miami. That serves Miami's interest. But you might need to have a conversation with him. You and Othello, Harrington, all them boys. Y'all might need to have a conversation. And Coach Thompson.
We all need to talk to him. You know, he might need some of our insight from us. We've been there.
That's right.
We know what's going on, but I want to know what's going on with him.
Okay, where is his mental toughness? Mental toughness. Did he have it to begin with?
You cannot say that because he proved us all wrong at the beginning of the season and last year. He played so very well until they went against Miami Heat. And this year he started the season very well, and they were on the top of the division, on the top of the conference. That becoming the question that everybody's asking right now, and it becoming also the answer everyone is looking for. Where is Hoover? What happened to him? And I'm walking on the street in New York every time I go to work. Everybody asking me, what happened to your boy?
And what do you say?
I just don't know. Nobody don't know. I think he's the only one who can give us an answer, and it may be his coach. I don't think Larry Bird is in a position to answer that. I think his coach can give us an answer.
When you watch, and I'm assuming you saw David West on TV the other day in the aftermath of their loss and watched it. Now, you've been around long enough to know that there's a lot more David West could have said that he did not say. When you looked at his face and you saw how he was like, look, man, I need him. What ran through your mind?
His teammate need him. Indiana will not pass the Washington Wizards if Hubert doesn't show up. That's the bottom of the line. We have to tell the truth. I think he needs to come out. And if he can come out, give them maybe 15 rebounds, there can be some hope.
So he's at 15
From 0 to 15?
He had 0. I mean, that's a stretch.
That would be just as shocking as the
All you have
disappearance.
to do is just reach out and get all the
That's
balls
what I
out
used to
now.
tell you. And you did it.
I used to average at least 19 in the playoff. Come on, Steve. You gave me a hard time, but
That's
I
right.
gave you an answer.
I gave you props when you did it. I gave you props when you did it, though.
It was a pleasure. You're a wonderful human being. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here next to Steve. I don't see him every day. So.
Thank God, right?
He doesn't need that. He misses me.
Coming up after the break, Jerry Jones was asked if he would consider taking Manziel in the first round. Well, he gave an answer. The gentleman will react.
Jerry, would you not even consider Johnny Manziel if he was to fall that far? Is that totally off your radar right now, or what do you think about a Manziel?
We would not in any way speculate specifically about any player at this time. I will go as far as to say it is not our primary goal in the first round to be looking at a quarterback. We've got a good one, I'm going to say better than that, but there's a difference of opinions, I'm sure. So that's not a primary need of us, of ours. And you've got to think if a tremendous talent starts getting near you, then all kinds of options come to bear.
Jerry Jones saying that they will more than likely pass on one Johnny Manziel. Joining us now is Coach Herm Edwards. He's back. We're putting Jerry Jones on the hook. You buying what he's selling?
I'm buying this in the fact that if Johnny would slip to 10, somewhere in that vicinity, Jerry would probably be interested. But if he's going to fix this football team, he's got to fix it on the defensive side of the football. This team was horrendous last year defensively due to a lot of guys being injured, but also the style of defense they want to play. This is a good draft, a strong draft of defensive players. They need linemen. They need another safety. Tony Romo's a quarterback that obviously is a good player when he's healthy. Now, he's had 2 back surgeries. That's a concern. I still think Dallas is sitting in a unique position. They sit there at, 16, Skip?
Mm-hmm.
Or 16?
Yep, 16.
So they've got some options. They could actually move out of the pick and move down. If I'm them, I'm moving down, to be quite honest. You can still get some defensive players. But you can also maybe pick up a 3. So now you can sit there in your second round and say if you can pick up another defensive player or 2, and then you have the option of drafting a quarterback, let's say Garoppolo. He's the next Tony Romo, people are saying, right?
Yep.
And so you get a guy to groom behind Tony. So you've done your due diligence on defense. You pick some defensive players to stabilize that, and then you've gotten a young quarterback that doesn't have to play right away that you could maybe bring into the mix. So that would be my option of it if I was sitting there and I had the ability to do it.
Okay. You want to give it to Skip?
No, I want to hear the hater.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, that's strong.
I know.
He's a hater. He admits it.
You know what it is, though?
It's the Cowboys.
It is the Cowboys. But the more I listen to Jerry Jones, the more I'm starting to like him. I'm starting to like Jerry Jones in terms of what he does to keep his franchise relevant when they do absolutely nothing on the football field to deserve it. I'm thinking about how he's the hype machine personified. And I'm thinking about how duplicitous he can be in his speech, in his rhetoric. And I find it thoroughly entertaining. When I look at Jerry Jones, I'm looking at him yesterday, here not as polished as he normally is. Just looking at him and saying, this man is lying through his teeth. And I love it. I'm not offended by it. Doesn't bother me. This man would take Johnny Manziel in a heartbeat because he's box office. That's who Jerry Jones is. He literally personifies the theater of sports. He's all in. It's who he is. It's what he's about. And who, Skip Bayless, is the biggest box office attraction in this upcoming NFL draft? Who is the individual that you can't get enough of, that the nation can't get enough of? Who is the individual that is considered the wild card in most people's eyes, but the person that Skip Bayless emphatically states whoever passes up on this dude will regret it for years to come? It is Johnny Manziel. This is straight comedy that this dude, Jerry Jones, can actually sit there with a straight face and look at the media and really think that he's telling the truth to us when he talks about how he'll pass up on Johnny Manziel. So you got a quarterback. I do understand if Tony Romo's completely healthy. I do understand that you just threw $100 million at him, $108 million, more than $55 million guaranteed. I think those numbers are right. You just threw it at him less than 2 years ago. This is last year. So I do understand if the man is healthy, how you saying I made that investment, we gonna roll with that. But considering how important the quarterback position is, not just from a football standpoint, because clearly we're not talking about wins and losses, because we all know that went out the window for the Dallas Cowboys over the last 17 years. But basically, technically, theoretically speaking, wins are supposed to be important. You can't do it without a quarterback. Jerry Jones know that. But more importantly, you can't sell your product without a quarterback. You can't be box office without a quarterback. So the point that I'm trying to make to you is, how in God's name could you have a dude coming out of college who may be arguably the biggest box office attraction we've seen in years, and the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones himself, is trying to convince us that he will pass up on that? Are we all boo-boo the fool? Let's stop it. This man would grab Johnny Manziel in a heartbeat. You know it. I know it.
Did you listen carefully to what the man just said?
Yeah, I heard him carefully.
Did he say he would not take Johnny Manziel? I did not hear Johnny Manziel.
He said I wouldn't speculate about that.
Well, wait.
Needs,
because
blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
The gentleman asked the question, would you? And he said, he started off with, we would not, and then there was a little bit of a pause, speculate in any way, shape, or form about any player right now. So wait a second. Everybody leaped to the conclusion we would not. No, you would not speculate on any player in the draft. And then he went on to say, and well, before I get there, remember, our own Ed Werder recently reported that Jerry Jones was heard gushing about Johnny Manziel within earshot of Tony Romo in the locker room or some confine thereof. Okay? So Tony has to know Jerry's already infatuated. Right. So then Jerry goes on, and what we just heard to say, we have a good one at quarterback, and then there was a little pause, and he said, there are differences of opinions. The owner said this about his $55 million quarterback. Are you believing that? Yes. He basically said, though some people might argue, and they might have a point, I'm interpreting, but that's how that came across to me. So I am with you. Look, I'm done with Tony Romo. This is just me as a fan.
You're done?
I'm done with him.
Really?
He was an undrafted free agent. Once an undrafted free agent, always an undrafted free agent.
You're done with him?
He is high risk, medium reward, as in 8-8, 8-8, 8-8. That's what Tony Romo is. He has broken my heart one too many times. I'm done. So to me, yeah, you're exactly right. Jerry Jones, you're exactly right. If Johnny falls to, I don't know, 12, 13, Jerry's on his horse, man. He's on the telephone saying, what do you want? What do you want? Because he's got to have him, because he admitted not long ago, we talked about it on the show, I'm all about being relevant. He admits it publicly. I'm about TV ratings.
And that's why I'm starting to like it.
All right. So
I'm starting to like it.
He declares it. Moral victory's fine with him as long as it's 51-48 to Peyton Manning at home. What a game that was. That might have been the game of the year in the NFL. Am I right?
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, sir. Are you saying if they draft Johnny Manziel, as he goes up and gets, is the Dallas Cowboys, are they a playoff team?
No. I would say not next year. Houston would be.
But Dallas would not be.
I don't know that. I'm with you. That defense is horrendously bad.
So then Coach Garrett gets fired.
Mm-hmm.
And then they bring in another coach.
Should have happened already.
Well, I'm just saying, then they bring in another coach. And then they got to change their defense over again. Because
are you watching? Are you going to?
No, I'm just saying.
Are you going to watch every game? Is it not going to be the destination for national media?
I understand that, but so you're saying the Dallas Cowboys would prefer to make money, which they already do. Mm-hmm. They're the number one
but you know how that
team
goes.
in football as far as merchandise and all sales and everything.
Only thing better than money to a businessman is more money.
Okay, so you're saying that we'll stay 8-8. and we'll take another losing
Do you
season.
know what would happen in training camp with John? And I have no idea what you do.
Oh,
with
we'll be there.
Romo.
You'll
I don't
be
know
there.
what you do.
If we have Johnny Manziel, we'll have a set there. You'll be there. You'll be there.
What's coach?
You'll be on the set.
Let me tell you something right now. Yeah, absolutely right. See, I've never been to Dallas Cowboy training camp.
You guys will be there.
I guarantee you, if Johnny Manziel gets drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, Skip Bayless gonna have first take right up in
Hey, no doubt.
Where they do the training
Right
camp.
there.
We gonna be right there.
It's Oxnard, California.
Where is this, California?
You let me go just for 1 second.
Skip's gonna have first take. The set's gonna be. They're gonna move this studio right there on the premises at the Cowboys.
It'll be metallic blue.
Hilarious.
And it'll be close to home.
But you know what? I'll enjoy that because Johnny can play. You see what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But and my thing is, I'm not even knocking Jerry Jones for it because later on in the draft, like you said, you can use those picks to address your defense.
Yes.
But I will openly say to you, Skip, in your defense, I don't blame Jerry Jones one bit. If Jerry Jones, what he is and what he is about and what he wants his Cowboys to be about, I wouldn't blame him one bit if he pulled out all stops to get his hands on Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel in a Dallas Cowboy uniform? In Texas? What? I got to admit, if I'm Jerry Jones, that's just the ultimate business move for him. He'd be straight for years, but you got to fix that defense. You're right about that.
Well, no, they don't, because if they're just trying to sell tickets, they ain't got to worry about it.
Tickets is the priority. Well, clearly tickets are the priority. You can use the rest of the picks or whatever picks you have down the line.
Because remember, Johnny Manziel played football on a team that played no defense.
That's right. So he's used to it.
They were ranked 109th in Division I.
And that's what they'll be again if Johnny Manziel goes to Dallas. They don't fix that defense.
I would agree.
By the way, they're 32nd.
Listen.
Unless they go to 33, that means they're playing in Canada.
Hey, listen, check it out.
Yes, sir.
You ain't going to be worse than you were last year.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, there's no way to go but up.
You be 8-8.
There's no way to go but up.
Oh, draft. Get here soon. Thank you so much.
Now that.
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys?
As tired as I am of talking about Johnny Manziel, that would change my thinking if he ended up with the Cowboys. I'd be like, Skip, let's do the whole shit.
Hey, I'm in. I'm in.
Good. You're on the record. You're on the record.
You're going to invite me?
Absolutely.
Everybody's invited.
I don't have to invite you.
I'll just drive down.
The world will be invited.
I'll drive down.
Skip. You should have the clout, Skip, and the pull
You should.
to have the show on
I'll
the
drive
Cowboys
down.
premises for that one.
Do it, Jerry.
Come on, Jerry.
Phil Jackson wants Steve Kerr, but
hilarious.
so does Golden State. Where should he end up? That is the debate after the break. Coach, it was a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. We're going home, girl.
We're going home. The Warriors fired Mark Jackson on Tuesday, and according to ESPN and multiple reports, the team has already contacted Steve Kerr about the open position. Kerr is the leading candidate to become the next head coach, but sources now tell ESPN that the Warriors' job is open for him as well, if he should choose to take it. Stephen A., Warriors Knicks, should he take the Warriors gig?
Clearly, the Warriors' job is a significantly better proposition for him than the New York Knicks. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson may be the best shooting backcourt in NBA history. Draymond Green has really shown himself. All of them are locked in for at least the next couple of years. Andrew Bogut is there as well. Maybe somebody can turn him into a player when the game really, really matters. And my opinion is, Skip, if you don't mind, I'm going to go on the record right now and propose a trade. I think that the Golden State Warriors, with Steph Curry, with Klay Thompson, with either Andre Iguodala or Harrison Barnes, with the pieces that they have in place along with Draymond Green, are desperate for a big man with presence, meaning somebody who can defend, who can rebound, who can potentially block shots, who can set picks and screens to free guys up, et cetera, et cetera. I think the New York Knicks should be on the phone with the Golden State Warriors, offer to move Tyson Chandler to the Golden State Warriors in exchange for either Iguodala or Harrison Barnes with another piece. I think that's what the New York Knicks should be doing, to use Tyson Chandler to get two players that would instantly be starters for the New York Knicks to pair with Carmelo Anthony in the event that he elects to come back. But with all of that being said, let me also say this. I'm going to reiterate my point from yesterday. The Golden State Warriors are a better job than the New York Knicks. I have absolutely, positively no problem with Steve Kerr being a head coach, a head coaching candidate, particularly for Phil Jackson in New York. His basketball acumen, what he's accomplished as a 5-time champion and as an executive in this league. He deserves credit for that, and he wouldn't be the first coach that was hired with no coaching experience whatsoever. My issue for people on Twitter, for coaches who called me yesterday, for people who called into my radio show with Ryan Rucco yesterday, my issue has never been about Steve Kerr being a candidate. My problem is that he has had his pick of the litter, because that is not something that I see happen for black coaches, where you have never coached a day in your life on any level, but you literally get to sit back, and I got New York, possibly L.A., and now Golden State. I essentially have my pick of the litter. I'm going to ask the same question that I asked yesterday. What the hell?
They're saying Utah's in there also.
Right, so I'm going to sit there and ask the question.
Yeah.
What the hell has he done to warrant that? I'm not talking about a head coaching job. I'm talking about somebody with no coaching experience having their pick of the litter. Let me throw some names out there for you. I mentioned to you Avery Johnson. I forgot to mention Lionel Hollins. You get into the Western Conference Finals last year, you get fired. This guy, your successor, gets bounced out in the first round. He's got job security. Sam Mitchell, who is an analyst for NBA TV, he's got his own NBA show on Sirius XM with my boy Frank Isola from the New York Daily News. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, this is a guy that was an assistant coach before he became a head coach, was coach of the year in Toronto. Can't get a sniff at a job. You got Sam Mitchell, you got Lionel Hollins, you got Avery Johnson, okay? The list just goes on and on. Randy Ayers gets fired after 52 games because Billy King, to his credit, admitted that he pushed the panic button. He's never got looked at again. Mike Woodson, despite the suffering that he had this year, the bad year that he had in New York, was off of a 54-win season the year before. Everywhere you look, you see black coaches with experience on the bench, okay, and can't get a sniff. But a person who has never coached on any level is chilling. Well, maybe I can go to New York. Well, maybe I can go to San Francisco, Oakland, Bay Area. Or who knows, maybe I can go to Los Angeles. Really? That's my issue. So again, the Golden State Warriors is a better job. But what we also need to be looking at, again, is no knock on Steve Kerr. This has nothing to do with him. His name is just in the mix. In the end, the problem here is the fact that he has his pick of the litter, because clearly there's a discrepancy. And dare I say, and as I was listening to Sirius XM yesterday, and I think the guy's name is Dan Grasso, whatever, for Sirius, he did a fabulous job. He pointed out some of the same things that I pointed out in terms of Steve Kerr. Well, how do we know he can coach? That's all he was saying about that. But an exceptional radio host, and he did a good job with that. All I'm saying is there's some big-time discrepancy going on here, and it needs to be mentioned. And since nobody else mentioned it, I figured I might as well, since it is first take. I needed to give the first take on that.
Well, you don't need to be defensive about your position, because you expressed it well yesterday and backed it up. And I was with you on all your points. I still have no idea why Golden State would be interested in Steve Kerr. No idea. You can't sell it to me. There are no credentials. There's no reason. You can't validate that choice unless you just tell me he's such a nice guy that he would come across as the good cop to the bad cop they just pushed out the back door in their view that Mark Jackson had become. He'd become so difficult for management and ownership to deal with that Steve Kerr would be a delight. Do I believe? Yeah, I'm sure he would. You've been around him. He's just the nicest guy in the world. In fact, I've made the point, I think he might be almost too nice to be a good head coach. Now, I do get why Phil Jackson would be interested in Steve Kerr, because, again, it's an extension of Phil, because Phil, in his heart of hearts, I'm sure he would like to coach if his health would allow it, if he could travel, if his hips, blah, 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 blah. I still think at some point he might coach. But if he wanted to move down to the bench, Steve Kerr would be the good lieutenant who'd say, fine, I'll just move over one seat and you can sit at the head of the table, right? So Steve would be amenable to that, and obviously he grew up under Phil. He knows the triangle. He believes in the triangle. He could teach the triangle offense. So that all makes sense to me. I got to tell you, you say that Golden State would be a better job for Steve Kerr. I disagree. That could be a hornet's nest for him. He could walk into a locker room filled with players who loved and believed in Mark Jackson, and they might not immediately warm up to him or play hard for him. It might not click.
I don't see Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, which I'm a huge fan of, who I'm a huge fan of, I don't see them laying down on the job.
Well,
they don't
their
have
heart
that,
might not be quite in it the way it was.
They don't
for Mark.
have that kind of character. And I think that their expectations are high as well. And you saw grown-up adults by them saying, we wish Mark Jackson the best. I owe a lot to Mark Jackson. I appreciate him, blah, 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 but we got to move on. You sort of get the impression that they understand this is part of the business, and they're locked in for the next couple of years. And they're not going to lose, denigrate themselves, diminish or dissipate their own brand just because they're upset that Mark Jackson is gone. They will get over it by training camp, unfortunately.
Think of the pressure on Steve Kerr if he takes the Golden State job. It would be immense, man.
Yeah,
I mean, you better be able to dance. You better come.
But it's about the roster.
Okay.
LeBron James and the choices he makes during free agency will be about the roster. Melo and his trepidation is about the roster. The roster means everything to players, and it means a lot to coaches.
I hear you, but the safer job is the fill job for Steve Kerr, because the big guy is he's going to hire you, and your honeymoon is going to be much longer in New York, because who expects much from the Knicks next year?
But with the job that he's done in television, he doesn't have to worry about a honeymoon. The fact is that if Steve Kerr is going to always have a job. He's not somebody that's starving for a job and is looking for an opportunity that he's got to jump at. He's got his pick of the litter, which is my issue. Because, what does it say? Again, if Phil comes in and nobody else is interested and that's his guy, who's going to have a problem with that? The man won championships with Phil. He's an extension of Phil. It's the triangle, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. We understand that. But when you have a guy and you give him the pick of the litter and there is no coaching resume whatsoever, what does that say to the profession of industries, of the industry where you got an abundance of dudes who've been working their tail off all of these years,
no doubt,
starving for an opportunity? You've shown that the process can be bypassed. What does that say about the profession? Nobody's asking that question, and that's my issue. The pick of the litter with no coaching resume. So it's all about who you know, I guess, huh? That's all it's about.
All right. Steve Kerr, options available. Now we're hearing Utah, perhaps. Yeah. After being blown out in Game 1, the Thunder look to even things up tonight. The guys will weigh in on whether or not that can happen. This is our playoff takes after the break.
A big night.
Ladies and gentlemen, our playoff take. CP3 and the Clippers will look to take a 2-0 series lead over the Thunder tonight. Paul had 32 points. God, he was amazing. 8 of 9 from 3. It was a 17-point blowout. Who wins the game tonight, CP3?
I'm going with OKC for 2 reasons. Number one, I think they'll be highly motivated and euphoric due to the Kevin Durant hosting that league MVP trophy in front of those hometown fans, number one. And number two, they have to win this game. Otherwise, my prediction is going to be wrong, because the Clippers will not lose this series if they go up 2-0. OKC absolutely, positively must win tonight, or the Los Angeles Clippers are heading to the Western Conference Finals. It's just that simple. They have to win. That means neutralizing Chris Paul to some degree. That means Russell Westbrook cutting down on those turnovers. It means Russell Westbrook assisting Kevin Durant the way he is capable of doing, simply by being as mercurial and as electric as you can be without the turnovers. It's just that simple. And I think Oklahoma City will do it tonight. I think they'll bring their A game, and they will win Game 2.
I am with you on your final takeaway, but I think this is going to be a very tough night for one Kevin Durant. I think he'll be a little emotionally drained from yesterday and from tonight's pregame presentation of the MVP award. I think Doc's team is in a great nothing-to-lose spot to just let it fly tonight and with high confidence. But I'm going to go Thunder close. I'm going to go 101-99 home team. And I say that Russell Westbrook will be the driving force, not only on offense, but on defense. I think tonight he will get a little revenge on Chris Paul. Chris Paul's not going to make 8 straight threes, his first 8 threes tonight. And that in the end, he will win the point guard battle in Game 2, which will even this series going back to Clipperland.
Okay.
That's it. That's all you got?
That's all I got. That's all I need.
You going to be there?
No.
No. Well, then it doesn't. Then Thunder off the hook, so it won't count.
You know what? I love the hospitality is exceptional, but I think you're a person more suited for Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
You going to Miami, though?
I'm rolling to Miami.
He's rolling to Miami, ladies and gentlemen. You guys meet him at the airport. Get the greeting squad ready for when Stephen A. Smith.
I will be there for Game 3 tomorrow night.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Game 2,
for Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, I'm Carrie Champion. That is our first take. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Tomorrow, NFL Draft Day finally arrives, and we'll break it all down. You can catch First Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
The next big thing, the next new kid, the next overnight sensation, the next rookie, one to watch, the next Hall of Famer, the next intimidator, the next six-time, the next king. Next. Who's next? Let's find out. Names are made here. The History 300 at Charlotte, Saturday at 2:30 Eastern on ABC.